morning, everybody. This is Johnny S with another R6 vlog. Beautiful day in Greece, quite hot. We're at the end of July, beginning of August, so we're approaching the summer vacation, let's say, the summer holidays, meaning that it's getting quite hot. And this is also our topic today. I don't know how I'm gonna call it, but you know, as it gets warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer, it gets more difficult and difficult to drive around with a bike. So I want to mention some of these things, and this is not just for bikers, this is for non-bikers, bikers, new bikers, old bikers. Okay, I mean all riders, you know, pretty much know this, but you know, we'll mention it nevertheless. It's been some time since we've done a vlog. And part of the reason again is, like I said, the weather. The hotter it becomes, the more difficult it becomes, the more stressful it is on the body, the less in the mood you are, let's say. So, you know, we'll get into it and we'll discuss why this is. Also, another thing to mention is sometimes when somebody lets me go or I let somebody pass and so forth, I raise my hand as a thank you, or you might see me shake my head like thank you, like an appreciation. And there's been many times where I have been mistaken because there's another car rider like driving from the opposite side, let's say, and they're thinking that I'm waving at them. So they lift their hand up and they start waving also. Lol. It's hilarious. A lot of riders are letting me pass today. This is amazing. Knock on wood. Don't jinx it. So a little bit of introduction about me, in case you are new to the channel. My name is John, as suggested by the channel. I'm 44 years old. I'm married with a 7-year-old boy. I live in Greece, Athens, Greece. What are they doing? Construction. I've lived a big portion of my life in Australia, so my teenage years were lived in Australia. Meaning from year 6 and on, and I came back to Greece at 2004. This is also part of the reason why you hear me speaking English. Between English and Greek, I am more confident speaking Greek. It is my mother tongue. I feel more confident, I feel more passion, and it's easier for me. But because you know, one of the differentiation factors that I wanted to have in my channel, let's say, was to a lot of trucks today. Was to speak in English in order for people to have more access. You know what I mean? There's a lot of channels in Greece, a lot of motovlog channels, a lot of vloggers in general. That are speaking in Greek, but that means that, you know, people are very limited in understanding, especially people that are not Greek. You know what I mean? And Greek is a difficult language, let's say. It's not like Spanish, where, you know, if you don't speak English, you speak Spanish. Greek is a little bit of a difficult and more of a rare language. So that's a little bit of information about me. My YouTube channel, introduction about my YouTube channel. I've started a YouTube channel mainly for personal reasons, as a journal, as a vlog sort of a thing. My YouTube channel is of general topics. It has been broken down into 3 different categories to make navigation easy, especially for newcomers. One section is games, happy game reviews, whatever has to do with games. Another section is Yamaha R6 Unleashed, which is music video clips of my bike, and the vlog section, which is of general discussion, general topics. It can be about bikes, it can be about anything. Why I call it R6 Motovlog is to keep the title sort of you know, kind of a common denominator in the title. So that's a little bit about introduction, it's a little bit about me, it's a little bit of everything. So let's get into a topic. I'm going to begin by stating something that I was thinking about yesterday as I was discussing you know, with a friend, basically the delivery man. Lol. He's a biker as well, and he knows that I have a social profile. He's an awesome guy. Anyway, many times, you know, he brings the coffee over and we sit and we discuss a little bit instead of just bringing the coffee over. Discussing it with my wife also, and her perception on it was a little bit, you know, different. I'm going to state it as simple as that, and that was my argument yesterday. Bikes are made for specific usage. And they are more limited than cars. We as bikers might not like that truth, but we have to accept it. Cars are housing the driver in a more of a protective environment, if you get what I'm saying. That meaning that the driver inside a car is less susceptible to what a bike rider is. And that means heat, that means that there's, you know, rain. It offers much more comfortability. Bikes, on the other hand, are much more nimble. They are smaller, thinner. They're able to skim through traffic, what is referred to as lane splitting, and that's something that I think should never be made illegal by the law. Otherwise, it defines the purpose and everybody loses. It's a lose-lose situation. But they are limited, and we don't like to admit it. Many of us riders, we don't like to admit that, because it's as if we acknowledge that, you know, there's a limitation on the bikes. But there is a limitation on the bikes. You might see a lot of hardcore. You might see a lot of bike riders that they take the bike in the rain, in the snow, and they have a mentality of, I don't give a fuck, yeah, I'll take my bike anywhere. Okay, with you, I'm all for it. I'm not against it, and I've done it as well, you know. I mean, I've driven home with such a rain, which is like Jesus Christ, but it is dangerous. You're susceptible. No matter how much protective gear you wear, you're on two wheels, meaning that it is more dangerous, meaning that it is a little bit more, you know, whatever you want to call it. Going a little bit silly today. But then again, which day are they not being silly? Lord. So I think as a rider, you have to, you know, admit that, and you have to come in terms with that if you want to protect yourself and not cause yourself any additional damage or harm. I think, you know what I mean. This is idiot here. Wake up, wake up! Don't give up the fight. So, for the car drivers, that's for, you know, this is what I recommend for all the bike riders. Don't take your bike and pretend you're like hardcore, man. Yeah, okay, you're hardcore. I can go in the rain, I can go in the snow, I can go in the fucking Amazon rainforest. You can, but you are open, you are susceptible. Now to the car drivers, you know, realize that bike riders are as such, and cut them some slack. Be human. Be a little bit more compassionate. They are having a hard time. It is more difficult for a car driver to understand, in case they cannot, which, I mean, it's quite straightforward. I will try to give the following example. Think of yourself as if I've strapped your car seat on top of your car bonnet. I've poked some holes on your car bonnet, and I told you drive. You know what I mean? You're getting hit by the wind, there's no protection, you're on top of the bonnet, which is a warm thing. There's air coming through the engine, through your feet, you're uncomfortable. If you were driving like that, you know what I mean? Would you not be more susceptible to things? Obviously. So some of the things that are, like I said, susceptible to the bike is the rain and everything, but to be more specific, we want to talk about the heat and how that can make life difficult on a bike. First of all, you're very, very warm, hot, whatever you want to call it. You're very hot, you're very warm. You're getting hit by the sun all the time. And another very important thing is that people don't mention many times is that the way the bikes have been designed, the way that the tires of a bike has been designed, is to give specific traction on the road, which is much more, how can I say, it's much more important in the case of a bike in the sense of a case of a car. The bike needs to have very good friction, especially when you're leaning it over, in order for it to grip. For the traction to work, it doesn't mean the hotter the better. It has to be specific temperature. If you have a piece of plastic and it's cold, it means it's stiff. It's not as gluey, and it doesn't stick on the asphalt. Vice versa, if you have a piece of rubber, the tire, and it's very hot, extremely hot, to the point that it's almost like melting, then you're going to have pay attention to the word that I'm going to say, an oily substance touching the road. So whether it's very hot or very cold, the tire slips. So that alone should give you an understanding of, yeah, the bike is made for a specific driving sort of range, you know what I mean? The second component is that bikes are water cooled, some are air cooled, and the Super Sport class especially is very heavy on the fairing, meaning there's a lot of components, a lot of plastics covering the engine. Because these are sport racing bikes, they are built in the sense of to go around the track. So as long as the bike is moving, you're able to intake a lot of air, and that is going to cool down the bike via the ram air system, by the air ducts, by all these systems. If you don't do that and you're stationary, then you are going to heat up the bike. And that's what happens with both, like I said, Super Sport and all type of bikes. As soon as you stop on the lights, the fans are going to kick in the case of a water cooled system, so the radiator fans are going to kick in, and the radiator fans usually they push air from the front towards the back side of the driver. Okay, so that will create extra heat that hits on your legs underneath you, you know what I mean? You are literally sitting on top of an engine. So to anyone that is a non-biker, like a car driver, think about it like that. Think about how close the bike rider is to the engine. They're literally sitting on top of it. Obviously they have some protection and some heat resistant elements such as the seat and everything, but nevertheless it's a big heating component underneath. And if it's very hot, the engine heats up, the chassis heats up, the plastics heat up, everything heats up. Another thing that I want to mention is how bad the sun is for the bike. I have repainted my bike lately, and if you can see here, the paint has crackled. The reason for that, extreme heat, you know what I mean? I did leave the bike to be sitting down for quite some while, enclosed area, no water, no washing, nothing like that, but I did not leave the bike in the shade for 1 month, you know what I mean? Otherwise I was not going to take the bike. Meaning that, you know, that has affected the paint job on the bike, and it was only expectable that it was going to affect the painting on the bike, you know what I mean? So you know, another thing again, what the fuck have they done here? Okay, another thing to mention about the bike paints, and not the bike paint, the bike components in general, is that your bike, if you're going to leave it on the sun, let's cut this down a bit. If you're going to leave it on the sun, it's got a lot of components which are heating, you know what I mean? It's the same thing for the car drivers that are not used to what I'm saying now. It's the same thing as taking your dashboard, your car dashboard, just leaving it on the sun. Doesn't that destroy the dashboard? Doesn't that crackle your dashboard? Don't you put the sun protection? Why you put the sun protection? Same reason. The only difference here is with a bike, you can use sun protection. You can use a cover, let's say, that you can cover your whole bike, and that protects it to a certain extent. But how many drivers have you seen that they park the bike and they put a cover on? Usually not many, because it's not very ergonomic. It's not very helpful. You have to put it on and off and on and off, and you're limited space wise when you're on a bike, meaning that you don't have a baggage compartment, so you have to really think about where you're going to put things. The bike in front of us, for example, has a baggage at the back and is able to store things, you know, I mean, my bike cannot do that. And I mean, look how wide the tail is in comparison to the R6. I've got a backpack, I'll fit a couple of things there. If I'm going to take a full cover, that's going to take this much space. No matter how much you compress it, it's additional space for the bike. So that's another thing that gets destroyed on the bikes. In my case, for example, these handlebars here are relatively new, meaning that I've got them for about 4 months now, and already the top part has been destroyed. The texture, if you feel it here, is much more sticky, much more grey. Underneath you, if you go like that, it's much more harder plastic. Why? Because the sun hits it all the time. Similar thing with these plastics, all the plastics, you know, I mean, similar thing with the paint. So that's another thing that heat really destroys a bike. the stationary component, we talked about it, and the last component that I want to mention is how difficult that makes the life of a biker. I will not spend more time, you know what I mean, how difficult it makes the life of a biker. Think about being on top of a thing that it's heating up, okay, fair enough, and then think about being on top of that heat with the fan kicking in as soon as you go to the lights, hot air pushing on your legs. Like, it's very, very difficult. You gotta drive with your legs open like that. I've seen, you know, friendly drivers on the road, and we all drove like that. So especially on the August, you know, I will say that not that you cannot take your bike around that time. You can take your bike around that time if you would like to, but it is very difficult, and it means that you have to put up with a couple of things. For me especially today, I'm wearing full jacket, gloves and everything, but it's very, very difficult. Usually I don't do this. Anyway, that's a little bit of a discussion about, I mean, listen to it. Look at it. 105 degrees. 105 degrees Celsius. And I've turned it off, you know what I mean? Now the fan, both fans are kicking in. It's pushing burning air through here onto my leg. And it went to 98 degrees. 98 degrees, the fan stopped. 96 degrees. You know what I mean? Now with the fan stopped, 95, it goes down. It is, how can I say, survivable. As soon as the fan kicks in, it burns your inside of your foot, you know what I mean? So take care if you're a bike rider, as much as you can. I thank you everybody for your time. I hope you have a nice day, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.